Looks like it's recording. Drew, thank you so much for being on this call. For those who do not know, Drew, as I affirm, or as I like to say, Sensei, was the first one to bring me to marketing attribution through LeadMD and our time there. And so it's awesome that we're going to kind of kick off this series of attribution talk with Drew being the first of the first here. So Drew, how are you doing?
Doing great, Ian. Thanks. Appreciate the kind words there, and I hope you've learned well how to sweep the leg since I am the
That's right.
sensei.
That's right. Exactly. I've learned to fight my battles for sure. All right, so Drew, as people can see in the background, we have a cool neon sign of Attributa. You have your shirt. Tell me about this company of yours.
Yeah. So I started Attributa almost exactly a year ago. We just hit our 1 year anniversary at the beginning of August, and I started the company because there is a glaring lack of attribution expertise in the world. You have the experts that work for the companies that sell the products, and then you might have a consultant here or there that dabbles in it, but nobody that really truly lives and breathes it all day, every day, and that's what they do. So I wanted to kind of fill that gap because that's really kind of where my role had kind of settled into that, not intentionally. It just kind of like evolved into, living and breathing attribution all day, every day. And so I figured, hey, why not start a consultancy that's really specialized and focused on that so that we can really get some just expertise in the world. Because I will always maintain you can't become an expert in something if you only spend 10, 15, 25% of your time on that thing. You just can't become an expert in something with that little amount of time. So
absolutely. And I remember, as we worked in that kind of co-working space, clients really relied on you to understand attribution. Like, to your point, we had marketing teams that were doing a number of different things, all very important to keep the wheel moving. But then when it came to, okay, now we got to be able to pull these reports and bring them up to the executives, they needed someone who just lived and breathed that to help them understand the data. And that's where we definitely saw just this progression.
Yeah, for sure.
Boom. So how's it going at Attributa?
It's going great. We've since we started, we've got nothing but, well, not nothing but mostly positive responses to just, the existence of the business and the expertise that we're trying to build and the kind of the voice that we're trying to be in the industry. We've gotten a lot of positive reactions and reinforcement there. You get the occasional folks that that think that attribution is not worthwhile, and there's a few folks out there that are very, very adamant about that, and so there's been a couple clashes with those folks, but otherwise, it's been it's been received very, very well, and we're growing. We just added our second full-time employee fairly recently, so things are going well. Yeah, things are going great.
That's awesome. And what are the different tools that we're working in when we talk about attribution?
Yeah, so the primary tech stack that we work in is going to be your Marketo Measure, formerly known as Bizible. You've got Salesforce, marketing automation. Typically, that's going to be Marketo. We get a lot of HubSpot and a little bit of Pardot. And then we also have a lot of organizations that want to get that attribution data outside of Salesforce and Bizible. And so we do some work in data warehouses and Tableau and other business intelligence platforms. But that's the primary tech stack that we're working with. We do work a little bit with Dream Data. We do work a little bit with Caliber Mind as well, on
Yeah.
the attribution platform side of things. And there's some others out there that that are smaller up and coming platforms that we're talking to and exploring as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So that really enables you to hit a broad spectrum, right? I mean, these different tools hit different business sizes, right? I mean, and not everyone's going to be able to afford, some of these larger, more enterprise ones, and so these smaller, B2B companies that are maybe just getting started, or picking smaller ones. But your company can kind of just do it all, right? You jump in, you understand, you have the framework for attribution, and then you can come in and help build that up, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, some of the partners that we work with, we work with them because they solve for a specific use case. For
Mhm.
example, with Dream Data, they're based in the EU, and so if you're working with somebody that has to be super EU GDPR, just conscious, then
Yeah,
Dream Data is probably going to be their best choice. So we work with them. We understand how attribution works generally. So when it comes to tools, the tools all kind of do things similarly, not exactly the same way, but they do things
sure.
similarly. So getting into the tool and configuring the tool, configuring the rules for the offline touch points based on campaign types and campaign member statuses isn't going to be
Yeah,
any different between different platforms. They're all going to handle
right.
that very, very similarly. And so the strategy
Yeah,
is the same. The actual, buttons that you push inside the platform are a little bit different. So that does make us a little bit unique in that we can come in and do some work in one of those other platforms because we understand, well, because we've seen those platforms and worked in them, but also we understand the strategy behind attribution really, really well.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, that framework is huge. And to your point, they said earlier, having a team of people that live and breathe this on the day to day to be able to come in and work alongside people who have a thousand other things running helps keep the attribution engine running all the while when they can keep their stuff moving forward. So I think that's awesome. Um, so with that, what's a really cool tool, or what's a tool that you're really excited about that's coming up, or maybe that you're currently using, but what's that, you kind of hear whispers of this and that happening, like what's something that you're really excited about within the attribution world?
Yeah, I would say it's not necessarily a tool, but it's a feature that is starting to become more and more prevalent and talked about and getting into a lot of we'll call roadmaps for a lot of
Yeah,
platforms is the application of AI.
yeah.
And I
AI.
what's
Just
that?
say it. Just say AI, and then everyone's stocks go up.
Oh
That's
yeah,
the beauty
yeah,
of
exactly.
AI. Yeah, yeah,
Exactly. Yeah. And I'm not like one of these people that's like an AI, just love everything about AI. I happen to think that AI has some really cool applications for attribution. So one of the things that, like, for example, Adobe is doing is Adobe is actually building out AI models where the AI actually goes through and does the modeling and does the how should all this stuff be weighted, and it does that for you, and then it gives you the attribution for those things based on the way that the AI has interpreted your data.
yeah,
I think
yeah,
that's really cool. I also think that there's some other simpler applications of AI that are also really cool that are starting to get talked about and starting to get built into roadmaps. One of them is that there are some applications of AI that are coming out where the AI can do things like anomaly detection, where it can say, "Hey, you launched this new AdWords campaign a month ago, and nothing has happened. You have no conversions. That's a
hmm
red flag. You should investigate this."
yeah,
Or you have a suddenly you have a your win rate, your opportunity win rate has gone down. Hey, suddenly our opportunity win rate went down. Somebody needs to look here, like
yeah,
investigate here.
yeah,
Um, that helps marketers understand what are the things that they need to be deep diving into, right? Because sometimes marketing analysts are trying to see everything. And when you try to see everything, sometimes you might miss something. So
Yep.
an AI that can tell you to look here is really, really valuable.
Yeah.
The other thing that's really cool is AI generated insights. That's another thing that I think is a really cool opportunity. Something that can say like, hey, this ad campaign is generating, 10 times the pipeline of other ad campaigns. You might want to look at increasing spend on this ad campaign.
Yeah.
So things like that can give marketers more intelligence and kind of democratize the analysis aspect of marketing performance, reporting, because it's difficult to know where to look and when to look there, and it's difficult to
Yeah.
generate those insights if it's not something again that you're living and breathing and doing every single day. It can be difficult. So being
Yeah.
able to use AI in those areas and just increase the accessibility of this complex data and complex analysis, I think is huge for attribution.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to expedite the process, right? Like we're going to like either way, people will get those findings. But to your point, it just highlights that it bubbles it up so that whoever's using it can identify it quicker.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that's spot on. What I kind of share with people in this too, where they're like, "Oh, AI is going to take over and it's going to, take over my job." And to your point, I think at the lowest level with these entry level analytics roles, things of that sort, what I think we're going to see is it's only going to enhance your game, right? If you are on top of AI and you understand how it's working, it's only going to help as someone who's coming in as an analyst to be able to identify and pull the results faster. I don't think it's going to necessarily remove any job per se, but what it'll do is make your job a lot more efficient, and you're going to have to figure out where to use your time differently. And then the other piece I think is really interesting in that story is AI is not going to like predict natural disasters. I mean, maybe it will, but it's like, and so there's always gonna be that component of like the human aspect, right? Why did our Florida trade show not work? Oh, because a hurricane hit, right? Like that's,
Right.
so there's like always going to be that aspect of where humans are going to need to be involved in this data set. So that's my rant on AI. We're going to say AI as many times as possible so this podcast gets a ton of hits. That's what we'll do.
Perfect.
All right. So you've mentioned a little bit about your journey, how, when we were working together, it was just kind of just a natural progression of becoming the attribution person, where we were at. You've developed that and creating your own company. So what is it that you enjoy about attribution? Like obviously there was like this, there's a passion that came of it, not necessarily like it's everything you dream of, but it's what is it that you enjoy about that from like a day to day or just what you're doing?
Yeah, I'm gonna give one very long-winded and two very deep on this one. So
Okay. All right.
when I first saw a demo of Bizible back in late 2016, which that's how far back I go with this stuff,
Yeah.
is it took me back to back in the mid 2000s when I entered into marketing. I started as an event manager, and I was coordinating over 100 trade shows a year. I was also managing. One of the cool things that I got to do in my career is I got to manage all the marketing around a college football bowl game that we were the title
Okay.
sponsor of. I was managing 8,000 tickets that 5,000 of those were going to clients or prospects, and I had memorabilia and I had all these different activations for that sponsorship on top of the 100 trade shows that I was managing every year. And because this was the mid 2000s and this technology didn't exist, we couldn't connect any of that back to a single dollar in revenue. And it was one of those things because I actually started my career in sales. So I was always kind of revenue minded. And
Yeah.
so it was one of those things that I was always in my back pocket of just like, I wish I could connect this back to dollars because I know that this is having an impact. I just can't quantify it. Right. And so when I saw the demo of Bizible back in 2016, all the light bulbs went off like, oh my gosh, this is that thing that you were looking for back in 2006 that didn't exist, but like you wished it did. And so that's what kind of got me hooked on it, was that just going back to the beginning of my career and in marketing and wanting to be able to connect things back to revenue, but we just didn't have the technology at the time, right?
Yeah.
So that's what kind of got me into it. And then since then, part of why I love attribution is my brain is wired for numbers and data and statistics and finding patterns in those things. And so for me, that it works really well for my brain. It tickles the parts of my brain that work really well with my brain. But I've also, from a client perspective, I love when I'm on a call with a client and we build out a report together and they get that aha moment of, whoa, look what we can do now. We can assign a dollar value to individual AdWords keywords, and watching them go through that discovery process, and that having that breakthrough that I had back in late 2016 when I saw the demo, that's what keeps me doing this. It's those breakthrough moments and those aha moments and those and you'll see it happen in one of those calls where you'll see somebody looking at this report and they're going, okay, I can actually I can see the insight that I'm pulling from this report. And I know we got to do this, and this because of this data that I'm seeing here. And you see that happen. And it's just, that's the most rewarding part to me is seeing those breakthrough moments and seeing those aha moments where people realize what you can do once you have this stuff in place, and how they can add more value to their organizations and enhance their careers by using these tools in a way that allows them to, make positive change in the organization.
Yeah, I think it's a great call out where the enhancing of careers. I think I think that's spot on, right? If you're able to understand how you're spending money and how you're creating money, your career will continue to grow, right? If you can continue to report on that, and that's attribution tools are perfect for that, right? It's no longer just here's Salesforce and here's all the money you've made, and it doesn't think of, well, what's the ROI? It doesn't think of any of the other calculations. And so I think that's a great call out. That a lot of that resonates there too. So that's awesome.
I think that most people and marketers fall under this banner of most people that I'm referring to. I think most people generally want to do good work. And I think that most people generally want to get better and better at their craft. They want to hone their craft. And I think that there's a lot of people that are a little bit handcuffed that can't hone their craft and they can't get better at what they do because they're missing tools like attribution that help them really understand what's working and what's not working, right? I know, you have a football background, and going back to when you played football, one of the best things about getting better at your craft in football is watching tape, right? Well, if you didn't have tape, if you didn't have the ability to go watch tape, how would you know how to get better? It'd be tough. I mean, you'd still have coaches, but you wouldn't be able to watch that tape and go, look, I took 1/2 of a false step to my right when I watched the quarterback's eyes go this way. So I took that false step and I got beat over here. So I got to be more diligent in staying home. You can see it on the tape. This is like having game tape for marketers. It's the same concept. There's no better way to get better at your craft than having the tools that allow you to see what you're doing that's working well and what you're doing that's not working well.
Yeah, to stick with that analogy, right? What's outside of the breakthrough moments that happen, there's also the moments of I don't know, I can't say it eloquently. So it's the oh shit moments, right? Because you're like,
Yeah.
oh, I just spent all this money on this and that didn't work. And there's sometimes a rub when you get the attribution tool plugged in, you're looking at all the data and you see that, and the client's like, there's an uncomfortable moment of like, oh man, I don't know how to explain that. And I
Yeah.
love that analogy of just like, hey, this is it though. Like we can see the tape, or we can understand this didn't work. And so we're not going to make that move next time. We know that now, like life's full of mistakes. But yeah, attribution tools also stir that up sometimes with clients, that uneasiness, especially even I see that more so on the demand or the lead gen side, right? Spending
Yeah.
millions of dollars on Google ads, and they're like, oh yeah, we actually can see how much we're producing here. This is a little uncomfortable, right? Okay, I don't want to eat, but I think I love that. If we can talk football all day, that's great. I'll have two more questions. One is we'll stick with attribution, then I'll have like a pop question just for
Okay.
kicks. What is the future of marketing attribution? We talked a little bit about AI, but if you were to project in 5 years, where does marketing attribution sit?
Yeah, I mean, I think that attribution has a little ways to go to catch up to some of the other technology that's out there right now. So what I mean by that is, there's a lot of stuff around how attribution can't track podcasts or can't track certain interactions on social media, and there's other applications where we could give better data visibility. So I'd love to see attribution platforms start branching out into some of these other mediums that I wouldn't say that it's impossible to track, because I actually know it's possible to track podcasts, but
Yeah,
I think it's difficult. And it's
yeah,
because we're lacking some of the integration features that we could have. So I'd love to see like attribution platforms start looking at, how can we integrate with like Spotify for podcasts, or Apple, for their podcast platform. How
yeah,
can attribution platforms integrate with connected TV platforms?
yeah,
So, we've got like a lot more B2B, advertisers and organizations are advertising on connected TV, because it's a way you can target people similarly to the way that you can target people with Google AdWords and stuff like that. And more people are on connected TV. So how can we integrate connected
yeah,
TV? How can
yeah,
we integrate other different data sources that maybe are a little bit more untraditional for B2B, but that are becoming more and more common, and we're seeing more organizations doing more with that. Um, Same thing with like when we talk about social media, like we can track social media, through clicks and the integrations that we have and conversions.
yeah,
But what
yeah,
you're not getting is the ability to track like the likes, comments, shares, direct messages. Now, there is a way you can do it. I got an article coming out soon that talks about how you can do that. But again, it's difficult. So I want to see some of those things get easier to do, because when they're easier, people do them. When they're difficult, people don't do them. So I want
yeah.
to see attribution platforms starting to branch out into, non-traditional mediums for B2B, because those non-traditional mediums are becoming more and more traditional.
Yeah, 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 that'd be amazing, right? If we could, because everything's connected, right? I mean, the digital landscape at this point is because your phone. I mean, we as scary as it is, like we know what you're looking at, we know where you're at, like the amount of data that's there to be able to monitor that. Yeah, that's a really cool concept. I think that would be we'll definitely get there, especially with the engagement with like CDPs and being able to like aggregate data that way. I think
Yeah.
we could definitely get to that point.
It's
All right,
it's not
cool.
going to be easy to do,
Yeah,
particularly considering like you're mixing like for me, when I listen to podcasts on Spotify, I'm actually using my personal email address, not my business email address.
yeah,
So you have to be able to resolve that to make that work well, right?
yeah.
So again, it's difficult to do, but it's not impossible. Like we
No,
have the tools that can do it. It's just more difficult. And
Yeah,
that same challenge goes for things like connected TV, because when I'm watching, on my smart TV right there, that's tied
yeah,
to my personal email address, not my
yeah,
business
exactly.
email address.
Yeah, no, exactly. Like everything, it's amazing where the email address is connected to so much at this point, right? It's just wild. Um, all right,
Which is
cool.
another,
So
which is another thing that I think is something that attribution down the road is going to have to start planning for and resolving is, we're getting more into we're getting more and more away from, like, there's a lot of places that are starting to get rid of like email addresses for logins, right?
yeah, yeah,
They're getting more towards biometrics, and they're getting more towards having like passphrases or other things other than just the email address. And so that's going to have to get, somebody a lot smarter than me is going to have to figure out
sure.
how that resolves within the attribution landscape,
Yeah,
because we are going to start moving further away from email addresses.
yeah, yeah. This is a good call out. Yeah, where my mind goes in that is that everything has there's an address to everything. Like my phone has an address, even if there's not an email tied to it. Like
Yeah.
the TV, like most of these uh, uh, hardware that we carry with ourselves or that we're using to watch things, like all have some form of ID. But to your point, like what is it that's going to tell us that these all belong together, right? This is part of a
Right.
package, right?
Yeah.
Um, and if everyone just goes on an Apple product, that's probably really easy, right? So no, no, that's fascinating. I think it's definitely feasible. It's that this stuff excites me. So I love that conversation. All right. So one thing I'm going to try to do with these times with interviews is to ask one fun question about what I know about someone. So for those who don't know, Drew, I don't know the correct word, but really loves dinosaurs. What's the
Yeah.
right term here?
Yeah. Well, when I was younger, all the way up to making a decision for my college major, I was
Yeah.
really paleontology.
Paleontology, thank you.
Yeah.
So paleontology. So did you see the last Jurassic Park
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
or Jurassic World? Okay, so what are the two dinosaurs that are fighting there?
Oh,
Two,
well,
it's like T-Rex and
you've got
then
T-Rex, and then you've got the Velociraptors, which
yeah.
those have been the two main dinosaurs throughout the whole series. Yeah.
And so with that, what actually wins in this? We got a team, we got a pack, or what we got a team of Velociraptors,
Yeah.
and then we
Yeah.
got a T-Rex. Who wins really?
You
I know
probably
they team
need
up at the end,
about
but
you probably need about well, it depends. Are we talking about like historically accurate velociraptors, or are we talking about movie velociraptors?
I mean,
Because they're
you
actually
take
very
it how you
different.
want. Yeah,
They're
I mean, we don't know
actually,
how smart those dinosaurs were. We could
yeah.
assume they were, but
So the historically accurate velociraptor was about the size of a turkey, not not
oh
a not
man,
not like the human size.
yeah,
So here's a little Jurassic Park, Jurassic World trivia. So the
give it to me.
Velociraptor, actually, the Velociraptor that you see in Jurassic Park and Jurassic World is actually it's a different dinosaur with a different name. They just gave it it's in the same family as Velociraptor,
Uh,
but they gave it the Velociraptor name because it's a cooler, easier name to understand, and it
totally.
gives that whole predator raptor kind of vibe to it. So the dinosaur that you see now I'm getting all into paleontology nerdery.
I knew this would get you. So
The
this is good.
dinosaur that you see in Jurassic Park, Jurassic World was actually my favorite dinosaur growing up. It's called Deinonychus,
Okay.
which means terrible claw, because that claw that they have on their feet, right?
Yeah.
So Deinonychus, if we're talking about the historical Deinonychus, you probably
Yeah.
need about 6 to 8 of those guys to take down a regular T-Rex, to
Okay.
give them a shot at killing the T-Rex. Historically accurate Velociraptor, because they're about the size of a turkey
Right.
in real life, you're probably going to need about like 20 to 30 of those. because they're considerably smaller, and so they're going to have a much harder time taking down the T-Rex.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense to me.
So yeah, so that's me being the
No,
paleontology nerd that I am.
I love it. I love it. I remember we were sitting in that open workspace, and if something about like Jurassic Park came on, like Drew was on it. Like
Oh,
you knew what like the facts about it. So I know I love that. I miss working with you, but yeah, I appreciate you. This first podcast, Sensei, who taught me, about attribution. I appreciate you jumping on. It is a pleasure. Thank you so much.
well, thanks for having me in. It's been a lot of fun, and definitely miss working with you as well. We had a lot of fun sitting next to each other. So
Yes. Yes.
yeah, good old days.
Yep. And then if anyone wanted to reach out and contact Attributa, like just what's the email address? I'll put it in the description below, but what's the best place?
Yeah, website is just attributa.io, and you can email us at info@attributa.io. That goes right to my inbox. So email us there. Find us on LinkedIn, anywhere you can find us. Yep.
Awesome. All right, Drew, thanks so much. Hope you have a great day.
Thanks, Ian. Have a good one.
See you, man.